talk about the Panthers, Bobby. Me and you have been going on back and forth with texts, and it's funny. Well, one of the criticisms about this show is that we agree on everything every single night. And if they saw our text message thread, they would know that's not true. Let's just start off with going into the draft. Just the roster as of today. I'll ask both of you guys. We'll talk about wide receiver because you know I love that position right now, Bobby. Oh, yeah. When the Philly Brown or Corey Brown, I don't know, whatever he really wants to be called, when that came up, Bobby, you were a big fan of keeping him.
Yes.
Right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's correct, right?
Yeah, absolutely correct.
And
yes.
I didn't say cut him, but I said if there's a receiver that you let go, it's gonna be Brown.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been surprised with the cut. But when we lost Ginn too, the question I guess I have for both of you right now, and we'll start with you, Bobby. Right now on paper, are the Panthers better or worse than last year's receiving core?
We are better. All right. So you have a Charles
Are you talking
Johnson.
Statistically, or is there
Nope,
not
even statistically. Not even statistically. This is in reference to guys that can go and get the ball. Now, there are a bunch of Funchess haters out there, but you need to realize with the removal of Ted Ginn and the removal of Philly Brown, he now has the keys to potentially be the guy on the team other than Kelvin Benjamin. Now, you bring in a guy like Charles Johnson, and I was putting up footage of this guy. He goes to get the ball. Like, the ball can be overthrown. It can be thrown to another guy off of the route. He will run towards the ball to get it. And not only that, at the line of scrimmage, he's making moves to get open. Now, Ted Ginn was a guy who didn't really make moves. Let's just keep it real. He just outran you. He would literally duck his head and run and outrun you. This guy, Charles Johnson, makes moves at the line. And I dare say, if you look at footage of Charles Johnson and you look at footage of Antonio Brown off of their break, very similar footwork. And I'm not exaggerating. I want you guys to go take a look at their footwork. Where they're leaving the line, pay attention. Footwork is almost identical. Charles Johnson gets separation. Remember who he's had throwing him the ball over the last 2 years. Remember that. He goes towards a guy who can now thread the needle to get him the ball. I think we see not the same season that Ted Ginn had in Cam's MVP season, but I see him putting up about 500 or 600 yards and about 40 catches and about 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Okay. Because the thing, and this will lead into the draft talk. I'll go and then I'll let Chase talk. But the thing that has always lacked with the Panthers with me is the ability to get a clutch a third and 8-ish play. We always talk about how the routes take too long to develop. Cam's in the pocket. I hate to say it, but actually Max said on the Mac Attack, like, we don't really play Patriot kind of football. It's always looking for, so it's either a big play, that there's not that 1-2 step drop. You know what I'm saying? There's not that guy that can get open off the snap. And
Olsen.
Besides Olsen, actually, you're right about Olsen. Besides Olsen,
I think Chase was mentioning the fact that we never run routes to, it's 3rd and 3, and if you're not going to hand it off to Stu, can we run a quick slant? You know what I mean? I think Chase was talking about that last year, all year, and just basically saying we're missing opportunities with quick slants.
Well, so this leads into my my wonderful Anquan Bolden talk. I was actually looking at some information some stats about Mike Evans and how clutch he is on 3rd down, right? So let me pull this up here for me and Chase on the screen. I'm just going to pull up this article. This is from the Buccaneers website about how Mike Evans dominates on 3rd down. And my worry with the Panthers going into the draft is we don't have a 3rd down receiver that we can really rely on besides Olsen. But the thing is, people know that. Right. People double team Olsen. So if you look at this, it's actually pretty crazy. And I know that you don't have this in front of you, Bobby, but we have highest receiving average on 3rd and 8. Okay, so basically all their catches that they've had on 3rd and 8 or more, the average of them Okay? Kelvin Benjamin is 6th on that list with 9 catches for 151 yards. Okay? But that's highest receiving average on that specific down. Okay? Now, if you pull up the list under that, which Mike Evans actually dominates both of these lists, third down receptions that produce a first down. The only Panther on that list in the top 20 is Greg Olsen. I mean, you're looking at people like Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, Randall Cobb. Here we go, Julian Edelman. We don't have that guy. And I know Olsen's there on the list, but you can't get stuck looking at Olsen. Who's going to be the guy that's going to go over the middle and get that catch? Can Funchess and Benjamin do that? I haven't really seen it. And then we were bringing in these 2 new guys. That's why I'm asking, are any of those guys going to be able to do things like that? Because that's the biggest problem with Cam. How many sacks on third down end our drive, You
got to remember, third down ends up with a 20-yard, 3rd and 5, and you get Shula that calls go-aheads. They just go 15 or 20 yards down the field.
Fine. Okay, maybe it's on Mike Shula.
Yeah, because it's not on the players. I mean, granted, yes, we saw Kelvin Benjamin drop passes. We saw Ted Ginn drop passes. But to be fair, man, those passes are 10 to 15 yards downfield. I mean, they never get the opportunity, with the exception of the Kansas City game where Kelvin Benjamin had the ball ripped from him. With the exception of that game, how many times have you really seen a play drawn up to get be a 3 or 4 yard pass to turn it into 5 to 8 yards? We really don't see that, man. And it's so unfair to our team for us to critique them about not being in the list when the plays aren't being called. I mean, let's just be honest. Greg Olsen usually goes across the middle, so he usually beats linebackers, so it's pretty easy for him to be on that list. But it's not easy for the rest of the guys who are 15, 20 yards downfield.
But doesn't it go hand in hand with maybe the reason that we don't call those plays is because we don't have the personnel? I mean, have you seen the Panthers run a screenplay? It's pretty bad.
That's what I'm thinking here. If you think about, we can say Mike Shula didn't call a play, Cam audibled, whatever. Think about who they have out there and who's going to create that separation. And like I said, the only person that is out there right now that can do it would be Greg Olsen. He's on that list, but
okay,
there's no one else. If you look at if you go and look at that list and pull it back up,
this one,
yeah. Number 3, Randall Cobb. Go and look at who's down at the bottom there.
Well, my other problem
is Jordy Nelson.
So
how many 2 people that can create that separation? Totaling that up right there, 16 and 22 catches.
Here's another interesting stat. Greg Olsen's the only tight end in that group. My point is, so I know that you can't really say this now, but I kind of am taking Greg out of the wide receiver talk because I'm talking about which receiver is going to be that guy.
Man, I'm telling you guys.
But then what do you do about Arizona? They have David Johnson back there.
Yeah.
But they produce.
I'm looking for us to start producing in this area.
But this is the thing, guys. In 2015, Cam Newton's MVP season, our guys were getting separation. They were getting separation because Cam had the time to block. To have blocks. I watched Philly Brown play the best season of his career. He didn't drop one ball that year. He was getting separation. Funchess in the second half of that season was getting separation. Ted Ginn had been getting separation all year. I refuse to believe that now Funchess can't get separation or Philly Brown couldn't get separation last year. When I watch these guys practice their butts off to get better, to be able to get safe. You guys remember the first half of the season, Funchess couldn't do anything. Everybody kept saying, oh, he's going to be a bust. He can't do anything. He worked his butt off. In the second half of that season, We watched him get separation. We watched him run his route so much better, learn the playbook. Now all of a sudden in 2016, you're telling me that all of that went down the drain? I refuse to believe that. I'm going to tell you what the issue is. Mike Shula and Ron Rivera sees a large receiver in Kelvin Benjamin, and they force him the ball. They force him the ball in double and triple teams. Not only that, but they're calling routes for him that he should not be running. You can't send Kelvin Benjamin on a Ted Ginn route. You just can't do it. And that's the problem. They catered to Kelvin Benjamin when he returned. Therefore, when Funches doesn't see targets that he should have gotten in the beginning of the season, his confidence is going to drop. Philly Brown's confidence is going to drop. Yeah. And then people say, well, Funches got the same amount of targets that he got the previous year. Yeah, but they were forced to him at the end of the season.
But Bobby,
that's why.
Another thing that you bring up, Mike and Ron going out and targeting KB. Now, look at what they've done, I guess, in the offseason, and even before that, saying, hey, we don't want to run Cam that much. He can't be our running back. He can't be our running back. You're taking a dynamic away from the Panthers offense by saying, you know what? If you want to say it in-house and say, Cam, you're not running anymore, like maybe like a couple times a game, then that's it. Like, and hold him down like that. Don't make it public, because now everybody's like, all right, he's not a mobile quarterback.
Well, here's the problem, in my humble explanation, is that when you get a team that can do what Denver did, they basically stacked the box and they said, we're going to play your receivers man and we're going to bump them and be physical. Mm-hmm. We can't beat that. Or weren't able to beat that.
Beat that.
Or weren't able to beat that, I should say. And
we can beat that, dude. The problem with that,
they just got too much pressure.
We saw the adjustments in week 1 when we played Denver. We saw the adjustments and we made the adjustments. The problem is, let's just be honest, they started playing dirty. We weren't getting the flags for it. We adjusted, and we were going to beat those guys in week 1.
I'm more talking about the problem is that teams know to beat Carolina, you have to force them to throw the ball.
Well, I think teams also know you have to get in Cam Newton's head by hitting him dirty as well. Like, let's just be honest. You can force Cam to throw the ball, and let's not act like we haven't watched Cam Newton throw some amazing passes, because he can throw. The man can play in the pocket, but the problem is teams know if I rattle Cam Newton, this entire team's going to fall. I think that's the number one thing people know. Even if I hit him late one time, and I purposely hit him late once or twice in the first half, he's going to get in his head. Yep. And he doesn't have the type of – this is the problem with Carolina. You do not see the offensive line or the wide receivers or the running backs running up in these guys' faces when they do that. Mm-hmm. If you do that to Tom Brady, if you do that to Ben Roethlisberger, I guarantee you the offensive linemen, the running backs, the wide receivers, somebody's going to get in your face. Cam Newton doesn't have that. And teams know if I do that to Cam, he's going to lay on the ground, he's going to complain, and boom, we're going to beat Carolina. Teams know that, right? And that's what I think teams know more than anything. I do not think that teams can just flat out come in the game and say, hey, listen, we're going to shut down. We're going to play man, because, if you play man against some receivers, you're going to get beat sometimes, right? And I really believe Kelvin Benjamin, as much as I hate him sometimes, the guy can beat some guys. Like, let's just be honest. When he's playing well, he can beat guys. I don't think manning up is going to beat us. I think teams know if I rattle Cam early in the game, he's going to come to odds with his coach or whatever the case is, and we're going to beat those guys. You protect that guy, he's coming back to MVP form, and he's going to win you some games.
Agreed. Hopefully Matt Khalil can step up.
He will step up. By the way, the Matt Khalil hate is so uncalled for. Let the man play a game before we bash him.
A couple more things, or one more thing on this list. You know what's ridiculous about this list, Chase? Mike Evans has 25 catches on third down in 2016. Mm-hmm. You know how many of them resulted in a first down?
25.
100%. And I'm gonna name you some other names of some of the top third down receivers in the NFL. Okay, Julian Edelman, David Johnson, Jordy Nelson, Michael Crabtree, Demaryius Thomas, Amari Cooper, Greg Olsen,
Doug Baldwin.
You know who's better than all of those people on third down?
Who?
Mike Evans.
And Number 81 on the Detroit Lions. Anquan Bolden, fourth on the list. I'm serious,
God
though.
Dang it, Dan.
Bobby,
You find a way to go back. Listen,
you
for
knew
the
there was
listeners, guys,
strategy here.
I've been hearing about Anquan Bolden all offseason.
But you knew there was strategy here. This is my point. We need a receiver that can have third down receptions that produce a first down. Whether it's Bolden or not, fine. Give me a Bolden player. We don't have one. You want to say it's Funches, you want to say it's Benjamin. It's not.
But if you can tell me what those guys have in common for the year of 2016, let me know how great their offensive lines were compared to the time that Cam had to find a wide receiver. So you mentioned, you're mentioning teams that have pretty solid offensive lines,
right? So this is where we're just butting heads. I'm saying it's the receivers. You're saying it's the entire offense. Fine.
You got to have time. Like a receiver can run the most amazing route possible, but if your quarterback has 2 seconds, it's not much. The receivers can be as good. You put Kelvin Benjamin on the Detroit Lions or the Bucks or Seattle, I guarantee you he probably is top 10 on that list.
Demaryius Thomas didn't have the best line or the best quarterback.
Well, what were the scenarios? Like, was it 3rd and 3 or was it 3rd and 15?
Third down, third down reception. I don't have the exact scenario. He was
17 for 19.
Third down receptions that produce a first down.
So let me ask you this question. Are they running routes that cater to Demaryius Thomas?
I don't know.
Is their offensive coordinator calling the right plays? See, there's a lot of things that comes into this. Is Demaryius Thomas being sent 30 yards down the field for 3rd and 10? Or is he being sent on a slant route or a curl, hook? What is he being sent on? So if he's being sent on plays that cater to his style, of course he's going to be on that list. Would Demaryius Thomas be on that list with Mike Shula as his coordinator in Denver? Is my question.
I don't know. I guess we'll never know.
I guess even the stat of 25 for 25, 100% Mike Evans.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. That is amazing. But everybody else that's 22. 20 for 22, whatever, don't have the best stats compared to Evans. But if you look at it, we're looking at this on paper. We're not looking at this in game. Like Bobby's saying, is it 3rd and 8? Is it 3rd and 1? Is it?
Well, Bolden has been the leader in the NFL at this statistic for a long time.
But look at the offensive coordinators he's had during his time.
But you don't think that has anything to do with the type of receiver he is?
It has everything to do with the type of receiver he is, but it also has to do
able
with
to adjust. And you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different things that go into this, and I get that. I just don't think we have this receiver.
I personally, I'm going to be honest with you. I personally believe Anquan Bolden has been deemed the type of guy you don't have to tell him what route. You're going to cater that route to him. Who's Kelvin Benjamin for you to cater a route to? You know what I mean? Anquan Bolden was Anquan Bolden. Like, when he comes to your team, you know he's there for 3rd down possession. You know it. There's no question about it. You're not going to tell him, hey, run something you've never ran in your career. No, you're going to look at the plays that made him strong and allow him to run it, whether it was in Baltimore, San Francisco, Detroit, wherever it may have been. They're not going to change his style up. But you have a Kelvin Benjamin come in. A Mike Shula isn't going to say, hey, I know what made you a beast in Florida State. Let's use that. No, he's going to say, here's my system, run my system. That's just how, sorry to say it, but that's how Carolina is. They don't go back to strengths. They go back to you playing to what they want you to do. And we've seen that time and time again.
All right.